evening, America, and good afternoon, Australia, and welcome to everyone listening across the planet this evening, today, wherever you are in the universe. This is Insight Intelligence, and I'm your host, and I will introduce you to my gorgeous co-host, Mario Bekes, in one moment. But before I do that, if you're listening live on LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, or Twitter, Hannah is ready and waiting with connections to anything that we talk about this week, and in particular the way that you can connect with Mr. Mario Bekes from Insight Intelligence. Now, each week we do a little welcome to country, and it goes a little bit like this. I respectfully acknowledge the people of the Yugoslavia language region, the traditional owners of the land on which we meet and broadcast, and pay my respect to the elders past and present and all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples here today. Now, this is your next installment in our ongoing series called Insight Intelligence with Mario Bekes. And what you need to know about Mario is that he grew up in Communist Croatia, which was then part of Yugoslavia. And he witnessed a lot of social unrest and proceeded to enter the armed forces and the Secret Service in his early part of life. He now runs a global company focused on investigation and managing your private files and data, amongst many other things. And Mario is a natural-born leader. He's a public speaker, an educator, a trainer, a results-driven, best-selling, published book author. And we are really privileged to have him with us here today. I call him my friend, and I'm so delighted to share these co-hosted series with him. Welcome back to the show, Mario.
Toni, thank you very much. And I'd like to say thank you to all listeners in Australia, US, across the globe. I'd like to say thank you to Toni Lontis' team in US, who enabling us to have this interview in real time, wherever we are across this beautiful blue rock. And as well, if I make it this, if I can take this freedom and be free to say something to all our listeners. Yesterday was a Toni Lontis' birthday. I tried to sing that song, but I know
it was beautiful.
Thank you so much. And I say thank you, Toni Lontis, for being the great host. Thank you for being a great friend. And most importantly, thank you for giving opportunity to people like myself to express to the global audience. So happy birthday, Toni. And, I'm wishing you every success and happiness and health in the future.
Oh, Mario, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
We have another power-packed show for our audience, and it's a powerful topic. We'll be talking about whistleblowers and informants, and it's an important discussion to have today. And with your permission, Mario, before we
Yes, please.
get onto this subject, I just want to quickly ask your thoughts. Before we went to air, I quickly sat down and watched some snippet of news on the TV. And there, front and center, was Mr. Vladimir Putin being
Yes.
very aggressive and a bully. And I just thought, I need to ask Mario your thoughts, because you lived in that area of the world, i.e. Europe, and his words really upset me. And I'm just at the point where I find myself almost yelling at the TV going, why is someone not standing up to this bully? And I think he's a big bully. So quickly, Mario, before we get on today's topic, I just wanted to hear your learned thoughts on this man, what's happening in Ukraine.
Well, I just going to go a little bit back in time, 80 years today. In 1941, German Wehrmacht launched Operation Barbarossa, 22nd of June 1941, with almost 4 million soldiers invading then Soviet Union. In 1942, the German Wehrmacht was driving through the Ukraine towards the Crimea, and then the Caucasus and Chechnya and so on. On that quest, there was a journalist following Germans, and they were Italian journalists who asked the Ukrainian people why, a year before you welcome Germans, now fighting them. And they said one simple answer: from two devils, we choose one who speaks our language, which was Stalin at that stage.
Yeah.
Putin counting on this. It's very important to people understand the Russians, that federation consists of many different ethnic backgrounds, different nationalities, but all what they have, because of that vast space and the way how they feel, they believe that Putin is the greatest thing. And Putin counting on this. And that's the reason why he's a bully, because believing that he has all the Russian people behind them. And of course, I truly believe that somebody, somehow, somewhere, a part of Zelensky and the Ukrainian people, which they're doing tremendous job.
Aren't they just?
Yeah, look, I can say something from my experience. It was on much more smaller scale. I admiring everybody who is stand up to the bully, because, Toni, we must understand one thing. It is not just Ukrainian army fighting Russians. They're fighting the machinery which was being built for 80 years. And, Russians are throwing everything merciless. They don't care what they're going to destroy.
They don't, do they?
Yeah.
Like, they just don't.
Yeah. And I believe that, as I said, like, we can be angry as much as we want, but I truly believe that every minute, every hour, Putin is going to go to the tremendous suffering more than anybody else and his citizens, and bully always meet the end. How his end is going to be, I don't know, but it will be, because even citizens of Russia, they have enough. And maybe you didn't notice, all the listeners, there's a lot of fires across Russia. In heart of Moscow today was again one of the institutes, and they have a lot of these fires and people burning the cars. Yeah, so I think it's always going to meet his end.
I sincerely hope so, because I just find it distressing.
Yes.
That rush for power, that bullying behavior is resulting in the loss of lives of beautiful human people and the destruction of a beautiful country. War is never the answer, ever.
Never was, never will be. And tragedy it is with every war. War ends, but trauma and the losses and damage, goes on for the decades after the war, and generations are suffering. You can just imagine all these little kids, being in the basements. I remember when I was very young soldier and saw these kids and families in the basement with every sound they will twitch. I mean, there was not explosions, but just a sound they will twitch, the fear. So, Toni, I believe that Putin and his entourage will meet. They will face the day when they're gonna. Yes, they will.
In this day and age, can't someone just with a drone just quietly and secretly just take him out? But I'm guessing that's unrealistic. And I'm guessing that there's probably
that's
someone
a good guess. Yeah.
Yeah.
But also, like, we have so many examples in history, and we will see it. That is going to be the turnaround, because, as I say, you can wage the war for some time. This war is now 2 months old, and it's a big pressure, not just on the military, on troops and the losses of life, but people are suffering across not just Russia but across the globe because of his foolishness.
Absolutely.
And that will be
good. Thank you for indulging me, Mario. I respect your opinion, having lived over there. This week, we want to talk about whistleblowers and informants. And in a similar vein, it's about protecting information at the forefront of it, and it's about protecting the people that are courageous enough to highlight an issue, crime or fraud. So Mario, I wanted to start with a discussion about the difference between a whistleblower and an informant. Can you tell us about the differences?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, to all listeners, we witnessing in daily basis, we're witnessing in real time news that there was some informant working for the government sector. More or less, we hear informants related to police. But informant is nothing new. It is, in simplest terms, I'm going to address this as a 5 years old. I would say, it is somebody who comes forward or has been or she been recruited for the purposes to gather information on an individual or group on behalf of the law enforcement agencies. Now, when you become informant, people, have that usually that romantic view on informants. Informants is a person who, or he or she, has get some type of education and training and how to behave, how to communicate with operatives, intelligence operatives or detectives or whatever it is. So it's a separation between the whistleblower informant is that one, that informant has been either rewarded, I can go into this into depth later.
Yes.
It's called the MICE technology, money, ideology, coercion, or ego. And there's reasons why somebody become informed because of money or ideology. And one thing when we talk about ideology, informant, that's the cheapest informants, and this is the most dangerous informants. Phil Kirby was very well known, the spy ring on the Cambridge. He was one of the fathers of the modern counterintelligence in military and MI5, MI6 in England, and he was spying for almost 30 years for the Russians because ideology.
That's a long time. Oh yeah, absolutely. Mario.
Yeah, they have the Hansel, who was the head of counterintelligence in FBI. He was guy who's supposed to protect the government against Russians and then Soviet spies. He approached the Russians and he was telling the secrets, and he's been caught. Philby not. Philby went to Russia, Hansen not. So that's a very two famous cases. Then you have a coercion, because that's one of the methods we apply, that somebody, sort of, let's just say DAA in my recent article spent last year, I think, like they spent like millions of dollars on almost, I will lie now, pretty sure top of my head, $400 million in 1 year on informants. DEA, yes, and they have about 18,500 informants who are in the heart of the drug cartels and everything else.
That's a bit scary, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, and then you have the ego, right? Ego is usually revenge, I want better jobs and I want to destroy somebody on a part, so I willingly participate in providing information just to make somebody's life miserable. And not every information is related to the government. We must understand there's a passive and active informants. Passive is when they're running the case against organized crime group, and there is active, and then the passive is when somebody is some way and providing from time to time information, and they go into database in simple terms. In other hand, whistleblower, it's not non-government recruited person. So informants usually, as I said, like get some training in communication, how to act, and sort of it's always some type of exit plan. And when you become informant for government, what I saw in my life experience, you have the validation, because you don't become informant. Hey, hi Tony, my name is Mario, give information. You are the some detective. It doesn't work that way. There's a special branch of people doing this, and then their identity must be protected by the law. Unfortunately, in Australia, we saw that sometimes this doesn't hold, and that puts a lot of strain on our law enforcement agencies getting informants to become willingly informants for the government sector. Now, when you become the whistleblower is a person with a name, surname, family, job, friends, who believes by acting, providing information about wrongdoing in corporation, they will assist corporation to reduce fraud, theft, hazard, wrongdoings by the summer management. And that there's a big difference between the informants who have become willingly, unwittingly, and you have the volunteers in corporate sector. Doesn't matter, we call the corporate sector and government sector, because he had a very famous case in Australia history. It was called the Witness K, who used to be working for ACES.
Yes.
Australian Security Intelligence Services, who has been then in East Timor, Lester Timor office. They planted 200 listening devices, and this case is still going on, right? Him and his lawyer and everybody else. So he was a whistleblower who has worked for government sector, and yet he has stepped out and said this is wrongdoings. And unfortunately, government sector whistleblower has been treated differently than in corporate sector. So in corporate sector, Toni, anybody can be whistleblower, and it cost no cent, nothing to corporation, but yet they had been named and shamed, and their reputation has been destroyed. So that's a major difference. Well, informant is being recruited through that MICE methodology.
Yes.
Or you have the whistleblowers, who is a volunteer seeking nothing and providing a lot. So that's the major difference.
And so, from my understanding of what you've just said, Mario, a whistleblower is driven by different reasons than
Correct.
an informant. So the informant is about the ego, revenge, money type situation, whereas a whistleblower is about doing what's right, noticing someone doing something wrong. So that may be a corporation leaking toxic chemicals into a river versus an informant ratting on a drug cartel. So
drug cartel, or let's just say, like you can work in foreign government. That's some different government agencies handling different type of the informants, right? Military, the foreign intelligence or police. Yes.
Under the law, Mario, are they protected in different ways or similar ways, or not protected very well at all?
Informant, it's usually, as like has been handled with a higher sophistication, I would call this, because they know in society. So this is not like, in a movie, which is this in a movie, you are snitchy, and if you don't do what we tell you to do, like, we're going to tell everybody. It doesn't work that way, because once when you become informant for the government sector, there's a lot of responsibility and accountabilities by government sector agencies who are working with informants. I says, speaking broadly and generally, instead of naming police, military, and so on. They have the set of rules and regulations, how to recruit, how to communicate, how to look after their well-being, safety, and everything else. And that cannot be guaranteed, right? We saw this in Afghanistan, we saw this in Iraq. Once when the people occupying force leaves, informant stays, except maybe key personnel. But then yet, of course, there's a protected by the law, and there's an entire set of legislations when it comes to informants, which are not available for the public eyes, because it's hard to challenge. And I'll show us that we have in Victoria, where we're not able to protect a key informant, but they call the lawyer X. But there was, because it's like, they always find a way how to come across this. But as a majority cases, I'll say 90% of cases, informants had been protected because there's a law, legislations, and acts. In corporate sector, there are some sets of legislations per each state and per industry. But again, it falls on the shoulders of corporation to protect, not the government. Government is one thing, but corporation is another thing. In corporation, there is a set of the legislations in New South Wales and other states, which they need to protect well-being and the likelihood of the whistleblower. How this is being done, we can witness that there is less and less whistleblowers in public, and that represents the problem, because whistleblower is I'll call this as a guillotine, right? You never know if it's going to fall on somebody's head, and the whistleblower comes out of the darkness and says what need to say, or she, and society tells, flabbergasted. We all be surprised. Wow, Toni and Mario done this. They steal the Nutella from the storage. You know what I mean? Uh,
Yes.
there's a shortage of Nutella on market in Australia because Mario and Tony,
Stole it all.
yes, like we're ciphering no Nutella in our storage. And then
Yeah.
suddenly public stays, you know, stoned, surprised, flabbergasted. So the whistleblower, I don't think the corporations are handling this very well. And I can understand why, because for whistleblower to understand who is the whistleblower, as I mentioned in my monograph, Informant and Whistleblower Management Plan, they must understand how to handle whistleblower, what's the key objective of whistleblower, who to approach. And, you know, more often you can see whistleblowers, nobody listen to them in organization, while in corporate sector, so in government sector, informant talks directly to the key decision makers.
Yes.
Sort of. That information find a way to key decision maker. While in corporations, they don't want to listen to this because there is the reasons why corporations, they don't like a whistleblower. And usually the whistleblower comes, it's not just Tony and Mario's, you know, ciphering 100 jar on Nutella monthly, but let's just say we take it, putting into jars, not Nutella, but we put some type of different product,
Branding.
right? Which is, yes. And we saw this during the COVID, Tony. We saw this, that there was a Project Veritas was a great one in the US. They were, how corporations was naive. They become the informants itself, the executive management. They were talking to the stranger and they were recording them. And so that's not a whistleblower. Whistleblower is a person who consciously steps out in the public,
makes a decision to do that.
Yeah, and hoping for the best. But unfortunately, society, it's unforgivable.
Yeah. I was just going to say, there's a couple of prominent people that come to my mind in and around this subject. So Edward Snowden and Julian Assange. And I'm really curious about your thoughts on those two prominent people, and the way that they were involved in dissemination of information, and whether that fell under a whistleblower, an informant. Where does that stuff sit? Because I actually think, from my personal perspective, that information should be freely available unless it is related to high level security. What are your thoughts, Mario?
Again, Julian Assange and Eric Snowden are two different guys. They have some similarities. Eric Snowden was a IT kid, as well whiz kid, as a Julian Assange. That being said, Eric Snowden consciously, he was employed by the various agencies in US, and he developed various type of the applications. You know, while you're sleeping, your camera on the phone is working and recording you that you even don't know. And of course, he has access to the many different applications for the purpose of eavesdropping, intercepting messages, and decoding, and surveillance of all types. Well, the Julian Assange, he positioned himself to be the beacon of the truth. And Julian Assange never worked in sort of, like, how to say, secret in type, I first work for somebody, then I step out. The officer Manning was the one who was helping Julian Assange, and that officer Manning now becomes the woman 2-3 years ago, being pardoned by the Barack Obama, president of the US. Julian Assange decided to open the eyes of the world, of every citizen, about wrongdoings of governments across the globe. Now, I used to work for the government, and sometimes it's very important to understand that when you dump the number of the messages there in the public, again, many innocent people going to be caught in that network of that scenario. And we don't know how someone's going to react when it comes to seeing again Tony and Mario stealing Nutella but putting the jam inside from Cuba. And people become upset, while Eric Snowden was directly consciously decided to step out and said how it's been done, what has been done, by whom, where. There was a plenty of articles, but as you know, the both of them, they've been neglected by whole society because
Yeah,
Julian Assange now is going to be extradited to US.
I know.
WikiLeaks still working, and people believing that that's a whistleblowers. I mean, see that Julian Assange knew it, that there's plenty of people there who sees things, hear the things. They come across the data, informations, and they have
Mm,
nowhere to go, so they're going to him.
yes.
So the WikiLeaks is still there, but as well, WikiLeaks is not anymore because Julian Assange, as a leader of that group, that organization, has been in Ecuador embassy, now in a prison in UK, and as that person, everything what is doing in WikiLeaks has become irrelevant. Same with Eric
Mm,
Snowden. Eric Snowden,
yeah.
as well, nowhere to be seen or heard. He does some
No.
interviews from time to time, but all this information has become irrelevant. But what did that helps actually? How this helps to the governments? Government sees where the problems rises, that information leaking, and they will implement policy procedures. Doesn't happen
So it
again in
doesn't
future.
happen again.
Yeah,
Mm,
and that's a two great examples of whistleblowers. Eric Snowden
yes.
directly from the government.
Mm,
He was working for government and private
yes.
sector, who was
Yeah.
working for government. Um,
Yes.
and then you have Julian Assange, who never hide that he represents the whistleblowers who are
Yeah.
happy to say the things we don't know or we're not aware. In
And
both cases, yeah.
he thought that information was in the public interest, and for us, the general public, it was important for us to know. So different from Edward Snowden, yeah?
Yes, look, Eric Snowden, you see, the Eric Snowden had hands on deck, right? He saw things. He created the applications. He was a constructor, an architect of the mass surveillance program,
Mm,
and his articles was, I was doing some on my university for my masters. There was a optic cable goes from Spain and Italy, and how the CIA tapped, millions of the cables, and
ah,
which were not fully aware. And that's a reality, right? I mean,
yeah,
every undersea cable, it's under the threat from anybody, right? It's device has been created, and but the CIA goes a step further. They took an exchange station in their hands and they just tap at people.
yeah,
But there is Snowden, as I said, like, I think that his conscience was start working as many
yeah,
whistleblowers, and let's not forget he left the life he know for
yeah,
the life which doesn't know in foreign country, and
yeah,
we are alleged we don't know where he is, but
yeah,
pretty sure it's between China and Russia.
yeah,
And as well, I mean, don't forget one thing, uh, Tony, when you work for the government, particularly intelligence services, the moment you cross the line and you become the whistleblower,
mm,
there's certain elements in intelligence community and military and government who sees you as a traitor, and
yes.
and
I
that's
wanted
what's
to bring
been.
that up. I wanted
Please.
to bring that up, Mario. There is a dichotomy between people's right to know, and conversely, the corporation or government that sees that as no, people don't have that right to know, and then us, the people, then have to make a decision whether we think this person is a traitor, divulging government secrets, or whether we think that we have the right to know. We don't always protect whistleblowers or informants or treat them very well, do we, Mario? Because if you take Australia, for instance, we have that bit of attitude that is don't dob, to use a colloquialism, don't
Yeah,
dob,
yeah.
which I don't, I'm not in favor of that, because I actually think that it takes courage to speak about things that you find or know that are not right. I think it actually takes courage and strength to speak out. But we don't treat these people very well, do we, Mario?
Absolutely. You will agree with me, and listeners. Information is a most valuable commodity in
Yes,
business. Everything.
yes,
Every information comes to the the desk. I call the desk, police, intelligence agencies, national security agency, whatever it is. One thing you must understand, people understand.
Yeah.
Every information being forwarded by somebody, it's been treated very carefully. Because not every information being forwarded by the citizens or, so-called citizens is valuable. That's where the intelligence services have the bigger task to check the source validity and information availability. So, is this information valuable? And who is the source? Because not every source information is a trustworthy, if I may say.
Yeah.
Whistleblowers in countries are different, right? As like informant can be double agent, informant can be triple agent.
Yeah.
It can be deliberately, purposely be the part of the manipulation of the system. So, but whistleblower is not protected the way they should be, and I give them my pride when I train the organizations in how to measure whistleblowers, to understand when they deal with the whistleblower, it's a human being. You must understand, it's a human being. Somebody with a wife and kids or husband, he or she, whatever.
Family, yeah.
I told you we had a family, that person, they have the life history. And everybody need to take it seriously from the moment that person who voluntarily becomes whistleblower to goes to the one channel only. Channel who is capable to do all these tasks around the whistleblower and pass this information, securing the whistleblower in shortest, and securing information and information being passed on top organization without harming the whistleblower. Because whistleblower doesn't step out because has nothing or she to do. They're coming because they consciously make a decision that this is the right thing to do, as you say, spilling the poison in a river or chemical, what it is. Now, it's a longer process than we expected, but then information be received by the corporation, it doesn't go anymore back to a whistleblower, except leave the person to work, to do, and as go through my training process with my clients, explain how this has been done. But then what corporation is going to do with that information, right?
Yeah.
This is the way the biggest problem starts. And the whistleblower usually is not somebody who is being just in, let's just say, in a warehouse. Whistleblower can be a person who is working across the entire organization, has access to many files and anything else, and people are generally afraid what else that person did. And, sooner or later, we have the Netflix series, where we are, 30 years from today, 30 years ago, sorry, there was such a person, Toni and Mario, and, they become the whistleblower, the techno teller, and the whistleblower told them, and nobody did care. Unfortunately, whistleblower, it's different than informant. It must be dealt even more sophisticated than informant. Informant has a tradition in government and law enforcement agencies as a role, and they know what they're doing through the decades and even centuries. While the whistleblower it's not something new, but the culture is changed, and they need to understand that dealing with a human being who or she have family, have the life, and what they're doing, they believe it's a correct, and they need to attend this as much professionally and sophisticated way which we train them. Yes, Toni, sorry.
Mario, is that why you wrote the corporate informant and whistleblower management plan? Was it because you didn't see them being treated and managed the way that they should be? And firstly, and secondly, is the treatment of informants and whistleblowers from a corporate perspective similar across the globe? Or are there big variables between countries? I'm curious about how perhaps a whistleblower might be treated in Australia versus the US, or versus Russia, or versus China.
Again, we must always come from this angle, what information whistleblower provides.
Yes.
It's identical as for the government or for corporation. Who is the source of information? Right? Is the new employee, old employee, with a longer work experience, and what is the type of information. Because the whistleblower just want to lend information, right? That's all what they want. They want to see that
They just want to speak about it.
Yeah, they want to see that somebody cares, somebody can do something about. And as I said, that's a very sophisticated process of operations, how to handle whistleblower. I don't know for across the globe, but I know that US take it very seriously, corporate whistleblowers.
Yes.
And they, as well in US, I know it's a practice they're employing the people like myself who comes from the government sector background, intelligence and the counterintelligence. So they have those people who care about these, they know the processes and everything else. When it comes to government sector informants, they are, in generally speaking, protected. They have the strategies for them, and they know how to use them. Of course, look, Toni, in a prison, you have so many informants. You have and the judicial system treat them differently, right? You know what I mean? And they live in a confined space. But let's just say in organized crime cases, or drug cartels and anything else, those informants. And don't forget one thing you should remember, maybe don't, but in 80s and particularly 90s, I would say, because I say look at Italy. Italy was one stage they stopped having informants because the mafia, not just the mafia, but as well the Cosa Nostra and I forgot the Napoli name. I'll remember later. They executed the head public prosecutor. I mean, they put 5 tons of the bomb in his car. So why would you become the informant if you can't even protect the key figure?
The highest level of judiciary.
Camorra. That's the name of the other branch of the mafia. Camorra. So, and in whistleblowers in organization, they had some legislations in New South Wales and other states which they protect them, but as well as, again, comes on the shoulders of corporations. And corporations should understand, should know how to handle them. Doesn't need to be complicated.
No.
From the moment the whistleblower just want to lend information, they want to see somebody cares as something has been done. And instead of this, whistleblower has been put in a public domain. And, these people are usually suffering long-term consequences by society, by corporations, and their livelihood and lifestyle is gone.
Yeah. Mario, part of the work that you and the team at Insight Intelligence do is around the training, and you consult around the management of whistleblowers and informants, and you do this across the globe, don't you?
That's right.
What does that sort of work look like for you and the team? Do you go in and work with the higher levels of management in a corporation? Do you get to work with the actual whistleblower? What does that look like for Insight Intelligence? How you do this work?
I work with one company which was utilizing third party. I mean, come on, third party. Third party has a website. Become the whistleblower. You have something to share with us, you share with us, and we keep anonymous, this and that. Right. And I told this company they have big problems because they had a lot of civil litigations, how the whistleblowers' information is being handled. So when I come there, I usually explain to them, they need to understand, as we through this process of our conversation right now, you and I, difference between informant and difference whistleblower.
Absolutely.
Most of corporations for the training, they believe they're going to learn some craft of espionage. And I always told them, information is your tool, it's your weapon. Now, I teach them how to handle whistleblower once we understand. Lead informants on the side, that's a government sector. Don't go that part. That is not your incorporations. If you start creating informants. Now, Toni, some of corporations I visited, and I spoke with their executive management, they told me they have a specialized team, again, third party, who recruits informants. Now, you don't recruit informants
No.
in organization, because first of all, that's illegal. And secondly,
Yeah.
informants, as I said, like it's a different on different level than the whistleblower. So when I trained them, I
Correct.
told them, if somebody becomes a whistleblower, it's not every day, it's once in 6 months,
It's
once in
rare.
a year,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
you need to be prepared.
Mm.
And the team and everybody else needs to be prepared how to handle this thing. And of course, it's a dual process of training. You're teaching the executive management what the
Yeah.
whistleblowers are and how was the benefits. One whistleblower I was witnessing, he was seeing the fraud on such a large scale, and nobody cared about
Was
that one.
speaking up.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and people around him, they say like, nothing's going to change. So he stepped out. And the corporations immediately, uh, uh, you know, was poorly handled. And of course, the person was, being publicized and
Oh,
ostracized
no.
by family and everything else.
Mm.
And I told them, this guy brought you the information which prevented you to bleed the money. And look at what you did.
Yeah.
And sort of, there was some type of negotiation with that person, and he was to look after, and so on. In of course, in the frame of the capabilities, the possibilities company can do. But when you train these people, you train the executives to understand that there's a benefits having the whistleblowers and not the negativity. And the
And
whistleblowers, yeah, sorry, Tony. Yeah.
Mario, that's what I was wondering because if I put my corporate hat on and I'm thinking about my corporation, it's in my corporation's best interest to know if there's fraud happening. So one would think that you would protect that person that brought you the information as a key component to your corporation being better and doing better. But what
Yes,
I'm understanding is that because there's so many corporations that don't understand how to do this, they're not doing that, and they've got bad outcomes for their corporation, they've got bad outcomes for the whistleblower, and it's all round bad for everyone, when in fact it could actually be a very it could be a great experience in terms of the corporation and driving them forward and lowering their costs and reducing fraud. And they should be protecting that person that's brought that information. So I'm guessing that there's lots of training that you do,
yes,
Inside Intelligence does, around
yes.
just that small component within
Abs-
organizations.
Absolutely. And, as I say, the whistleblower is like a guillotine. Imagine, with the guillotine, and you put your head and you never know what's going to, sharp
Yeah,
paper going to snap your
yeah,
neck, right? Cut your head. Why is that? Because when a whistleblower is being treated well and other employees, and doesn't matter what type of organization you are or what level of management you are, you never going to know if your wrongdoing is going to be forwarded by whistleblower, right? So there's
yeah.
another element: how to investigate this information, how to
Yes. And
establish.
you do that as well, don't you,
Yeah,
Mario?
yeah,
That
absolutely, Tony,
investigative
absolutely, yeah,
process is complete part and parcel of what you do.
yeah. And now at the end, look at the brighter side. Corporation who's been trained how to handle whistleblowers,
Yeah.
and they do process of internal investigation so meticulously, so well. Public's gonna know.
Yeah.
It's a good reputation sign.
It is. It is.
And when you have a whistleblower, usually as much as negativity whistleblower receives in media
In
or in
media.
public stage,
Yeah.
there's always the elements of those who's going to be interested in the story.
Yeah.
And that story, it can go on 60 minutes sometimes.
Yeah.
All these things.
Absolutely.
So
Yes.
it's a vicious circle. So as I always say, training and education, when the meet
It's so
opportunity
important.
in whistleblower management, it's going to result in a beneficiary results. If
Yeah.
you have no training, an opportunity rises and you have the whistleblower approaching and not handling very well, it's going to have the echoes across the globe, not just in
Yeah.
your own company.
Yeah.
Training is very important.
Mario, if you if you have an instance where a whistleblower has talked to a CEO and that CEO and corporation don't have whistleblower and informant management plans in place, they can actually reach out to you and you will guide them through that process and
Correct.
make sure that it's managed appropriately for everyone's sake.
That's correct, Tony.
Yeah,
I'm inviting everybody who experience or they believe they're going to experience, and you will experience
yeah,
that phenomena called whistleblower, because a whistleblower is not just how to handle whistleblower, it's how to handle information, how to investigate information, how to run your PR, and
yeah,
this is all be done to the something I call the war room, and where you're doing this staged a problem. And I mentioned this before, it's a pre-mortem analysis. You're doing predictive
yeah,
analysis. If the whistleblower comes with what type of information, and you put all these elements, and then you strike the three worst case scenarios, and that's the training what I'm offering to the clients,
yes.
particularly CEOs. CEOs should understand value of
And know this.
whistleblowers here. Yes,
Mm,
absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely, Tony.
Now, Mario, last week we ran out of time, and I don't want to run out of time again this week. But
Yes, Tony.
our conversation around whistleblowers and informants actually leads into my question that we didn't get to last week about providing expert witness and providing reports in the judicial system. Because often whistleblower or informant information does have an end result in some form of judicial or court process. And that's another part of what Insight Intelligence does.
That's correct.
And that expert witness training and understanding, I wish that I had known years ago that there were companies that could help you with this
Thank you,
and
Tony.
prepare you for a court process, because I'm telling you, people, it is not pleasant. Mario, can you tell us about how you prep you and your team for as expert witnesses and how you help others prepare themselves to be expert witnesses?
To roll to be expert witness, of course, I was engaged with the third parties, and based on my education, my tertiary qualifications, and of course, work experience in levels most of people don't have. Of course, put you into that role of expert witness. So what my role was? My role was always been, if an investigation has been done and the client goes to the lawyer and they believe that that investigation has been illegally, or they use the methods that should not be used, or any misinformation been placed into the report or statements, I'll review this one. So I'll review from the moment this case has been opened to concluded. I'll inspect all elements on behalf of my client, which is third party, to prove or disapprove that method has been consistent in according to the law, acts, legislations, and that
Yeah,
investigator qualifications matching this case. So that's just a few elements of the investigation. So
yeah,
my qualifications are like, I've done the forensics
yes,
academy, and I know that this application has been done. So I'm investigating from a scientific point of view, legal point of view, and methodological point of view, that this case has been run properly. Investigation has satisfaction elements, that there's not been influenced by fraud or
yeah,
misinformation, disinformation, threats, blackmail, whatever.
yes, yeah,
Now, there is a different type of expert fitness. We have as well for the motor vehicles. We have the
mm,
person who does the motor vehicles accidents, crashes, break and enters,
yes,
everything related to
yes,
vehicles. And that person, David, has extensive experience in mechanics, but not to be just mechanic. He knows the metallurgy. He understands the
yes,
chemical processes, scientific processes, everything else around the vehicle. And he as well assists me when it comes to investigation, that something would happen to the motor vehicle, matching those what says in report and the statement given by the claimant. And that's the way we approach it from scientific way, academic way, work experience, and legal and of course lawful side of the this investigation. So that's expert witness we provided here, and as well I have the forensic psychologist, which is Debbie, and
yeah,
she's the one who actually goes on a court, and as an expert witness, she can state that this person, for example, Mario says to Toni, I have the diabetes from so much Nutella, right? And because there's no Nutella anymore, my diabetes is going to the roof, and I have a PTSD. But I didn't go to the doctor. And or maybe I go to GP, and we go to court. You take me to court. You have no PTSD, Mario. Debbie comes in, and she again, from her professional view,
she can say, well, actually,
yeah,
he mightn't have gone to a GP, but here's elements of
PTSD doesn't exist. Yes, that's correct.
Yeah.
And then court says, okay, so what's your qualifications? Of course, before the proceedings, you know what I mean? And then you present all these qualifications. And of course, you need to be rectified recognized as an expert witness rather than just somebody doing the blue. Because after all, if you step as an expert witness and you show no understanding, no knowledge, little work experience, and you're just doing opinion-based reporting or giving statement, you're not expert witness, and you're gonna be, literally seen by the court as a clown, and the lawyer and everybody else is gonna be sent out. So it's very careful. So that's what we're doing. Psychology, motor vehicles, and of course marine vessels, and of course forensic investigations, and expert witness.
Fantastic, Mario. We are just about out of time. I want to do a plug. I know we have so much fun.
That's okay. Good. Yes.
It goes so quickly. It goes in the blink of an eye talking about this stuff. I find it so, my love of criminal and forensics just is in overload. Mario, I just want to do a big shout out again for your show on Alive 90.5 FM Sydney on Wednesdays called Life is a Battlefield. You're always looking to talk to wonderful people about their life experience each week. And I want to let the audience know that you can reach out to Mario. Again, wherever you're watching this interview, there will be notes attached that give you direct link to connect with Mario. And more particularly, if you're a CEO in a corporation, you're thinking about being a whistleblower, for goodness sakes, just touch base with Mario and the team at Insight Intelligence first. If you know that your corporation is not set up to manage the information that you want to divulge, please talk to Mario. He'll be able to guide you in that process. And if you're a CEO and you've been confronted with a bit of information that you didn't know about your corporation, again, reach out to Mario and the team at Insight Intelligence. They are your experts in helping you navigate this fraught area of life, corporate life, and indeed private life for many people. Mario Bekes, thank you so much once again for being such an amazing co-host. Your wealth of knowledge and wisdom inspires me each and every week, and I can't encourage the audience enough, those listening, to connect with Mario. He is just a beautiful human being, but also an expert in intelligence. Mario's group, whilst they already work globally, we're going to be pushing, Mario and the team are going to be pushing into the US in the near future. So if you're listening in the US and you want to connect with Mario, I encourage you to do that now, whilst he is pushing into the US and helping people across the globe. Mario Bekes, thank you once again. That, my friends, is your lot for this week. I want to wish you a wonderful weekend, and Mario and I will be back next week with another show. And next week we're going to be talking about all the elements of training and education that Mario and the team provide, and he has his own courses which are phenomenal. So we're going to be talking about that next week. Mario, have a wonderful week, and that, my wonderful audience, is your lot for this week. We'll see you next week. Bye for now.
Thank you, Toni.
Bye, Mario.
Thank you. Happy birthday, Toni.
Thank you.